everybody, welcome back to another episode of Kavanaugh's Corner. Today on the show I'm going to be talking about a movie that I really love. This is definitely one of my favorites, probably the best movie about firefighters ever made. Definitely up there with one of my favorite Ron Howard movies as well. Just an absolutely phenomenal film. The movie I'm going to be reviewing today is the new 4K edition of Backdraft, starring Kurt Russell, Robert De Niro, Donald Sutherland, William Baldwin, just a bunch of great actors in this film. And as I mentioned earlier, directed by Ron Howard. When I heard that this was coming to 4K, I was actually pretty surprised. I was not expecting this movie on 4K, but man, I am glad this is out there. This is a fabulous 4K transfer. I was really, really impressed with this. Backdraft obviously deals with fires and firemen, and has a kind of a mystery plot to it. It's a pretty good movie about sibling rivalry, and I enjoy it. Does have some corny aspects, but again, it is a very well-made film. Ron Howard definitely does a great job directing this movie. But I have to say, this movie really floored me when it comes to the 4K transfer. As always, first and foremost, I'm going to be talking about the video quality of this 4K. This 4K disc here is, this is one of the greats. I am just in awe of this disc. The picture quality is phenomenal. And phenomenal in a way that is reserved at times and really mind-blowing at other times. And what I mean by that is the palette of the movie has not been changed very much. It is kind of just like the Backdraft you remember. However, detail quality on this is really stunning. I never noticed until I watched this version that Kurt Russell's character has a sticker of the Chicago Bulls on the back of his helmet. I never noticed that until this version. I don't know if I just wasn't looking for it or not, but it really jumps out to you in this version. All kinds of details like that are really finely tuned in this disc. Really just outstanding quality. The picture clarity is something else that's pretty great. Obviously, it was shot on film. I'm pretty sure it's a 35 millimeter negative, but there is not a lot of grain. The grain is minimal to very fine, I would say, and it's never at all distracting. It's barely noticeable at times. And the big thing I have to talk about on this disc is black levels. Black levels on this disc are pretty much perfect. I did not notice any kind of issues with any kind of black level mixing, any sort of inkiness. It really is a very solid black level all throughout. The nighttime scenes look really beautiful, and there are details in the scenes that you can pick out on this version that you never noticed before. The scenes where Robert De Niro as Rimgale is going through the burn sites, the backdraft sites, and kind of looking at little details, little tinders, little pieces of wood, details in the burns on the walls. It really jumps out at you in this version. But the big one here is HDR. This disc is an HDR10 disc. There's no Dolby Vision. But the HDR10 does wonders for this film. You definitely get colors that you cannot get anywhere else. The colors on this disc are really, really impressive, and I could not believe how fire looked on this disc. Fire is a big element in this film, obviously, and fire is seen in a way that I did not expect. I've seen this movie quite a few times, but the way the HDR really gives the fires their own kind of life is really mind-blowing, especially in the warehouse scene near the beginning / kind of middle of the film. The fires that shoot out at the firefighters and different characters, they really have a life of their own. You can see multiple colors in one burst of flame. Bright yellows, dark oranges, reds, all different kind of colors, where before it may have just looked yellow, it may have just looked red. You definitely get a whole sea of colors now that just weren't there before, and I really, really love that. The finale sequence where they're in that warehouse with all the flammable containers and everything's blowing up. You can see little red embers in comparison to the orange flames. It's just really, really mind-blowing. And this is definitely a showpiece disc for picture quality. I really, really was impressed. The audio on this as well, again, also extremely impressive. This is a DTS-X mix, and the DTS-X does a great job of really immersing you in the film. I'd say the overheads are used very, very well in this. When fires are blowing over the firemen's heads, explosions happening left and right, the surrounds are used perfectly, but those overheads now are really, really well used and definitely get you more involved in the film and really makes you a part of the movie. It places you right in the center of these big fire scenes. And I loved it. I love the way they used the audio track on this disc. One of the best immersive audio tracks I've heard in a while now. Really, really impressive. Again, the movie also comes with the standard Blu-ray, which is the older Blu-ray from years ago that came out, and a digital copy. The digital copy does also have just the HDR10. And I can't recommend this disc enough. This is a fabulous release from Universal Pictures. And I paid about $20 for it, and it's worth every penny. This is one of the best discs I have in my collection. I really highly recommend Backdraft on 4K. This is a great film, made even better by that 4K disc. Unbelievable. Now, very briefly, now that we've got Backdraft 1 out of the way, I quickly want to say a few words about Backdraft 2 that came out recently. And Backdraft 2, in a word, is a disaster. It is one of the worst sequels I have ever seen in my life. It is not worth your time. It is not worth your money. It's worthless. It is a worthless piece of crap. The plot of it is just almost indecipherable. It's constant technobabble about fires. The main character, who is Kurt Russell's son from this movie, I thought would be an interesting character. He's just a big jerk through like 95% of the movie. I hated everything about it. The acting is just horrible. Even William Baldwin returns in that film as the same character he played in this. And he is just sleepwalking through every scene that he's in. There is only one good thing about Backdraft 2, and that is Donald Sutherland returns as the same psychopath that he played in this, as Ronald the Arsonist. And he comes back in that film for about 2 scenes, really. He's barely in it. He's in it for probably about 5 minutes. But he is giving it his all. And he is doing the best that he can do with the absolutely terrible writing that movie has. And I have to give him a lot of credit, because he jumped right into a character that he hasn't played in over 20-something years. And he does a great job as that character. But even his lines are just very poorly written. The thing I got a kick out of is the fact that he refers to he refers to Robert De Niro's character in this film as Rimgale. And in this movie, he constantly calls him Shadow. And if you've seen the movie, you know why. He never once calls him Shadow in Backdraft 2. And I couldn't believe just the inconsistencies between the two films. It is just an awful piece of garbage. And I don't recommend, even if you watch it for free on Netflix like I did, please don't watch it. It actually almost kind of damages the enjoyment of this film. It is that bad. I would give it a 0.5 out of 5. It is awful. The special effects in Backdraft 2 are also horrible. They are so low budget. Most of the fires are completely CGI, and they look really bad CGI. They look like really bad CGI. They look like they spent $20 on the effects in that movie, whereas this is basically all in camera. And it's sad when a movie that is, over 20-something years old looks better than a movie that came out 2 weeks ago. You know you got a major problem on your hands when that's the case. So anyway, that's my review of the 4K disc of Backdraft and my review of the god-awful Backdraft 2. Thank you so much for coming back to Kavanaugh's Corner. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel so I can bring you more content like this. Until next time, thank you so much, and take it easy.